Welcome everyone to the Franchising 360 show. This is the fun show where we're going to take a 360-degree view of the world of franchising, how to become a franchise owner, how to be successful once you are, and how to take your business and turn it into a franchise. I am Tim Parmeter, and with me as always is Danielle Wright.
Hi.
The co-host of the show.
Yes.
Like partner in business, you know.
Partner in crime.
Partner in crime, partner in life.
That's it. That's all you got.
You seem less sure about the last one. So it is, can you believe it is like we're literally middle of November?
I know, you need to stop saying that.
I know, but we're getting close to Thanksgiving. What does that mean for us?
Vacation.
I know. And where are we going?
I don't know. We're going on a cruise.
We're going to be on a boat that day.
We're going to be on a boat that day.
We are. One of the beauties of working for oneself
Being
is
a business owner.
Right.
Yep.
Did you have to like months ago request like time off from your boss?
I don't know. Hey, boss, I need time off.
it's totally not how that works around here. But we didn't have to do that, did we?
No, we didn't.
No. Do we have to really worry about, oh my gosh, while we're on the boat of like, we got to try to zoom into some boring meeting?
No, we don't have to worry about zooming. We do have to worry about like stuff falling because the business doesn't stop just because we're choosing to
we're on a
stop.
boat, right.
But I think that's why we travel during those times is because, you know, the rest of the country is on vacay too.
Yes.
So,
but it is wonderful to be able to do that and have that kind of freedom and
yes.
flexibility, right?
Some would say it's also nice to be able to afford to do that.
Yes. And so,
Coming off of, you know, lots of episodes about veterans and funding and all of those things.
Right.
Like,
and just money. We always know that is there no matter how much we talk
I'm
about.
wearing a green shirt.
Green shirt for the money today. So
Green for the money.
One of the things we want to talk about is how like kind of the scalability of a franchise. We talked, I know
That's a big word.
It is. Don't ask me to spell it.
Okay.
So, but a few weeks ago we were busting some myths.
Oh, look, you got better.
I know. And
Yay.
so we talked about like, you know, hey, can you make $1 million? Well, perhaps, but not right away. It's hard work. It takes time.
Right.
And one of the ways is to scale, but just at the most basic level, what the heck does that mean?
Right. Because I just said was scalability. That's a big word.
Yeah.
What do you think scalability means?
Well, I'm guessing that we're going to scale something,
Okay.
but really it's all about kind of that growth for a franchise owner, right?
Right. Or a franchise business.
Right.
It's called adding units.
Adding units.
Let's take the big old word of scale away because, I mean, I think of a fish and then I'm hungry and then it takes me down a whole tangent.
And then I really want you to do your fish thing, but that's not.
Oh, no, that's not happening. Like,
no. So, but scalability is something with most franchisors that is an option for their owners to come in and do, right?
If you want to make money, you got to add to it.
Right. So if you look at a particular franchise, and again, I think it's really important. One of those kind of myths that we were busting was, franchising is just like buying a job. Like that's a negative. Some people that's perfect for them. Right. But if you look at a franchise and you want to own one of those and you determine it has a potential to make X amount of money, right? If you want more, you're just going to be able to kind of add to that in some way, shape, or form.
So
right?
I think the best definition for our viewers right now is there's scale and there's stack. So we're simple humans in the franchising world, as you've said, and we generally have acronyms for these things. But scaling typically for certain brands means I'm adding more units, more of the same brand. It's either a larger territory or I'm taking on an additional truck plus more crew. Think about how do you multiply yourself? That's what scale is.
Right.
Stack may be you add a complementary brand or service. So I own a landscaping business. Something that I could tack on to that might be a window washing business, right? Something in the home services sector. A lot of food franchises add complementary food. Like if I own a burger, I can't own multiple different brands of burgers.
Right.
Franchisor doesn't really like that, but you can go into a sandwich shop or you could go into tacos like, oh, I'm all getting hungry. So maybe you should take the mic about some scale and some stack.
Yeah, no. And I think there's a lot of kind of details that go to that, how and the kind of the timeline and things like that. And so we'll kind of break this scalability up into if it is a retail location, because those are going to scale differently, right, in different timelines.
Right.
But also that's maybe that non-retail franchise, and you use the fun word stack of like the multiple brands, really kind of those three things coming up. And let's start with the retail, because we all kind of grasp, oh, there's the pretty retail location we walk into as a franchise.
Retail, we call it brick and mortar,
right.
Anything that requires a storefront.
Right, where people are coming to you. So let's talk about how we scale that retail location. Let's do that right after we come back from this break here on the Franchising 360 show. All right, we are back here on the Franchising 360 show, and we are talking about how to scale one's franchise. And a few different ways we can look at this, right? So we can have a franchise that is retail.
Yes.
Non-retail. And then eventually we're going to get into kind of how we can do multi-brand of that. But to start with, let's say we own a retail storefront in a strip mall, whatever franchise.
Okay. Hold on. Programming. Got it.
You got that?
Yep.
Okay. Everybody up to speed. So picture your favorite strip mall and picture what your favorite thing is. You and I are both hungry, so we're immediately thinking about food related ones in there.
No,
but it doesn't have to be. Okay. So how do we scale that? Talk to us a little bit what that looks like.
Scale a single to multiple?
Correct.
Okay. Well, you got to find a second retail space. That's important.
Okay.
Because, I mean, right now, real estate's tough.
But up front, when somebody's looking at this, and do they decide that at the beginning? Like, 'cause I'm ready to sign a franchise agreement. Am I already knowing I'm going to do 3, 5, 10, 100 of these?
You're asking a very difficult question. So do I or do I not commit to multiple locations?
Right. So, but you can. Right.
Franchises love it when you do.
But you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Okay.
So the reality is that you want to probably be operating in that franchise for about a year. Get a full year of operation so that you can get the highs and the lows and the seasonalities and all of those things. But if you think a couple months in, hey, I want to add a second location, first thing you're going to do is pick up that phone and call your franchisor and say, hey, I want to add a second location. Each of them has a different process, how that works. Do I go find the real estate first? Do I get approved for the second location? There's just like you did for the first.
Right.
It's probably going to go through the same abbreviated process of a second.
Right.
So
in theory, it should be easier, like each ensuing
right.
one. But so you don't have to do like kind of commit to multiples
at one time, right?
You can, and that's where sometimes people think like, "Why? I really love. I gotta stop doing that. Goodness gracious! I told you repeatedly. I gotta stop doing that.
Stop moving your hands."
So, put that one right here. So you have I love this franchise. This is the one that I want. I think my financial goals, I might be better looking at 3 of these.
Yes.
Right. So, but there's that fear of like, oh my gosh, how do I do 3 of these all at the same time?
Right.
Again, back to the Mythbusters a
while
back.
Right, the financial investment piece. There's a lot of things to think about.
But that's not really, you're not really doing, if you're going to say, I'm going to commit to 3, that doesn't mean you're committing to 3 right away.
I think the 3 is a timeline set by a franchise, not necessarily by you.
Right.
It's set
What's
by
that look like? Like an example. I know there's a lot of range, but give us an example.
Right. So traditionally, and I say traditionally, my experience in scaling has been centered around fitness or food.
Right.
Right. So based on the timeline it takes you to get something open is really going to determine the timeline of the second. So a safe number is 12 months. So you can open an additional location 12 months from the day you open the first location. That's a key word.
Right.
Open. Not from the time that you find the real estate or sign the lease or any of those things.
Right.
You open door day 1. By day 365 would be the trigger to get a second location into process.
Right.
So they make it a longer timeline on the first 2. If you're going to go say, I'm going to do 3, 4, 5, you've kind of mastered that execution of the plan.
Right.
And so you can probably do that in shorter windows, 8 to 6 months from the time you open one, you'll open another one.
Right.
So based on real estate, looking for real estate nowadays is taking, 90, 120 days to secure a location, get an LOI and a lease. That's what secure means. And so construction, however long that takes. So there's a lot of variables. I wish I could just give you like one direct answer.
And with each franchise, you kind of gave examples. Those are examples, not like standard for everyone.
Yeah.
But
and they're generally pretty flexible.
Right. As long as you're working towards it, right?
Right.
The advantage of the multiple up front, say, and franchising, for whatever reason, a lot of times it's odd numbers. It's 1, 3, 5. Not that you can't do 2 or 4,
right.
but you hear that often. allows you to then kind of secure like kind of that market area so nobody else could come in.
Right.
And it is a little bit of the risk if you just do one at the beginning,
and
right?
On your side, right, like how would you coach someone into 1, 3, or 5?
Yeah, I think it's first understanding, again, there's nothing wrong with one being enough. And I think we can't stress that enough.
And I think we all generally agree, start with one. You don't know what you don't know, right?
And so, but there are times where it is clearly the right thing to be able to expand, or that you're going to or want to expand, right? And you do get a little bit of a reduction on franchise fee if you do that up front,
yes.
right? So at times, so there is that, but it's also making sure that you don't get yourself overextended. Right. And as you know, there are probably some franchises that push the overextension. We're going to be the other way around, a little bit more conservative with that. But it does allow you to kind of lock that up.
So let's talk about like the positives of it though, right? Because that's the reality. It seems a little sad and daunting at times, but the positives are for scaling, adding additional units, whether you prepay for them or you decide to add them through the life of your franchise journey. Like there's some positive things for business owners when you do add additional locations, hence why brands want to turn their business into franchises. But what have you seen in that category?
I think we're talking about the phrase economies of scale, right? Which is one of the biggest ones. And certainly again, just that overall growth and scalability potential from multiples versus just one. Let's hit up that economies of scale.
Big words.
Exactly. Right. So let's hit that up. After we come back, more on how you can scale your franchise into long-term growth. We're going to talk about economies of scale and how to do that without a retail location next on the Franchising 360 show. All right, folks, we are back here on the Franchising 360 show talking about how one can scale and grow their business long-term. And right before break, we used this crazy phrase, economies of scale.
You're just trying to look smart.
How's that? How am I doing?
Great.
Yeah, super. Well, I'm just saying it. I'm not defining it. That's why we're going to you.
Oh, I don't like it when you do that.
I know.
Economies of scale pertaining to?
Well, our business, our franchise that we were trying to grow.
Which one? We were talking about a retail franchise.
Yeah. So, I'm hungry, so I'm going with food.
Okay.
So I've got a food franchise.
Okay.
I have one. And we know that growing and having multiple, obviously that's multiple additional revenue and hopefully money into the pocket, more equity for long term when we're ready to cash out and sell that thing. But what's economies of scale mean?
I think when we're referencing it the way we are is why would someone want to have multiple locations? And it's being able to share resources. So I use regular people terms, not economies of scale and macro and microeconomics.
Oh, I did go to the Harvard of the Midwest.
You really good.
German State Bulldogs.
There you go.
All right.
So it's the ability to share resources and have multiple locations, right? So as you would say, it's running out of a product and then being able to share that. When we owned franchises, we had 2 studios. And so we had instructors that stretched across both. So they taught classes at one, they taught classes at another. And then that way our labor force wasn't out of control from an expense perspective. So for businesses that want to scale, when you're looking at the economics of it, again, you don't have to be the instructor.
Right.
We obviously are not physically fit. So it was more of how do you use those resources and use your business brain to make sure that you're leveraging the multiple opportunities.
Right. You may have an employee that wants more hours, but you only have the need for them maybe 15 hours a week, but like, man, I'd love to have 15 to 25. Well, what if we float you back and forth between the two? Now you've got a great employee, and they're getting the hours that they need.
And think about if you go back to your first job days. I don't know that you had one, but I was in retail, and so if I wanted extra hours, I would have to go work at a different store at a different mall and have to drive there.
Right.
But then it was a shared resource and it benefited the location, and it just had me making the same, $5 an hour.
Yeah, exactly. So when you think of now growing and scaling from a non-retail franchise, right? So how does that differ a little bit from the retail ones we talked about earlier?
Timeline, probably a little bit less of an investment. When you think retail, I'm going to have to build out something.
Right.
But if let's talk home service, which can be, what is it? repairs.
Enhance, maintain, repair.
I love that.
Which I completely created all by myself.
Did you?
I did.
It really does work. Out of all the things you talk about, it's the one thing that sticks in my brain.
I know. And if our friends
there's a lot of things he talks about.
If our friends from Waco are watching, then I'll defer to them on creating that. But I
friends of Waco, we mean neighborly, so that's a plug.
We don't actually want friends in Waco.
Well, maybe we do. I know some nice people.
We do know some good people there. But enhance, maintain, repair is kind of how we categorize the home service.
Home service is a logistics business. I got to get someone from here to there to work with said customer. So when you're scaling logistically, it's a truck. We always say it's a guy and a truck.
Right.
Truck and a guy, truck and a guy, truck and a guy. So I can add a truck to my fleet, cover the same service area, but now I have more of an opportunity to touch more customers, more clients than necessarily I would with just one guy, one truck. Right. So the scale option happens in that industry quicker. A little bit easier because you can lease a vehicle, so the expense is not there. Right. Generally, if you know a guy knows a guy, and there's a great referral network from the labor perspective, you're already buying the product. Say it's plumbing. I've already got the pipes in the car. I just need another truck to put them on. Right. So it's a little bit more seamless to be able to do.
So you can kind of, when you have something retail, there's a capacity for fitness. There's only so many classes during the day, and
there's only so many hours in a day, and so many reformers that you can put people on.
But with a non-retail, we've got a territory, and I don't know, maybe just randomly, there's 100,000 people in the territory, or 50,000 households, or something, right? You could scale with multiple territories, but you can even just do that with the one.
It's a way to scale with one. To your point, when we were talking about, can I make $1 million? Right. The more customers that you can serve in a timely fashion, that's more money in your pocket. Right. So always look at it from a perspective of what is the capacity a truck can do. If my jobs are an hour, give or take, someone's running this 10 hours a day. If I have 2 trucks, you just doubled your capacity.
Right. And don't worry that you don't know, like, coming into this as an owner, well, I don't know how much revenue a truck, the franchise is going to say each truck can do $300,000. When we start
talking like FDDs and things like that, there are things in those documents with the franchisor that are basically going to tell you when you hit that inflection point. Again, we talk a lot about business owners and having their own business. You don't know when you're supposed to do that. The great thing behind franchising is they've replicated this multiple times. Right. They know the trigger point.
Right. And then again, we can still do multiple territories with this and really kind of carve out like big metro areas. Sometimes you can really kind of spread out.
But if you say like your capacity of, if it's 100,000 people, right, you've got number of single family homes, and then you've got the capacity of a truck, really you're probably going to touch maybe 1/8 of that capacity with one vehicle, and you're going to max yourself out, and then you're losing opportunity. So I love the home service sector. I know you do too. And the math behind it is easier than I think economies of scale language will tell you. But everyone should start with one, and that one's an easy one to add a 2 or a 3.
Absolutely. So, and we want to talk about the kind of the other way most people don't think about
stacking.
really going and kind of empire building.
Yeah,
so more on stacking as part of the scaling on the Franchising 360 show when we return. All right, we are back on the Franchising 360 show talking about how to scale your business. Is that something where we've got multiple physical locations? We've talked about how to grow the non-retail ones with multiple kind of trucks and also at multiple territories. But the way we really grow that empire is what we'll oftentimes hear as stacking. So Danielle, what the heck does stacking mean with this?
So I'm new to stacking. So one of the franchises I recently worked with, it was a big promotion within their franchise system. They had 9 brands, and it was important to say, if you started in this vertical, you grew it, you could add a complementary brand. So stacking is the ability to expand and go wider versus deeper. So when we're talking scale, we generally say go deeper, go deeper. If you haven't driven every road in your territory, you haven't maxed capacity at your territory, right?
It's the beauty of the non-retail thing,
right. And so with stacking, you add additional brand. So what we like to call is the multi-unit, multi-brand franchise owner. So if I own one brand that's like a cookie franchise, I might go into an ice cream franchise. I might go into generally
so
food
hungry right now.
Stays with food, fitness. We just had a placement in a brand. They are a food sandwich franchise owner. The wife wanted to own something different, and they bought a boutique fitness franchise. But she'd owned her own hair salons for years. Right. So you can
used to the retail
how
things.
all of those things kind of really connect. You find one thing that ties, and you can kind of just roll with that. Yeah. So that's how you get to that scalability.
Does it have to be complementary?
No, it doesn't. But back to your economies of scale words, right? Like if it's something that, if we take the non-retail home service, if I have a guy that does this, he can likely do that, right? It's that I got a guy, right? And the guy generally can do a lot of different things.
Or people that are referring you business for that cleaning franchise could probably also refer it to you for the landscaping or painting.
And it goes one level deeper is I've already paid to acquire the customer with one brand. Right. So now I can multi-brand up a vehicle, like have multiple logos on the side of a van. And now I've built that rapport with that customer, because that's the hardest thing, right? Is getting into their home. It's easy to get you to come out of yours into a retail space. It's a lot harder when they're going inside someone's home.
Well, and I think as for all of us as homeowners, right, we're like, oh my gosh, I got to get somebody to come into my house. How do I know if they're any good? But once you find that good person, you're likely to ask them,
can you do this?
Right. Can you do this? Or do you know, like, well, no, this business doesn't, but I own one that does.
Correct.
Right. They're going to go, perfect. Sign me up.
A lot of times what we tell you on the franchisor side is make business partnerships with those other complementary businesses so that you create a referral network. But why not just own them all yourself?
Right. And I think the one time where I see the non-complementary is maybe somebody's like, they really have a goal of owning a food franchise someday, but they can't do it today. But they start with maybe a service business to begin with because it fits in their investment. Grow it, scale it, grow it. And then all of a sudden now they're like, oh, financially, I can do that, whatever food franchise. So it's not unheard of, but it does make so much more sense when you're really part of that economies of scale. And if you're in a home, own the home for as many things as you can.
Right. Because then it's basically, you look at that as a cost per lead perspective. I paid this to get in there. I'm going to milk it for all I can.
Yeah, absolutely. But it really is when you go back to, like how much money can I make? The question is always like, how much you want to make.
I still go back to the 20% variable is you.
Right.
You want to put it in, you want to put the time, you want to think big as you should. Like what is it called? BHAG.
Right.
Big, hairy, audacious goal. Like how far are you willing to go to get there?
Right.
Like what are you willing to do?
And it's the beauty with the franchise versus a job, right?
Yep.
You've got the plan to make it happen.
And the job's going to cap you out.
Right. When you get happy as a franchise owner, you can just stay right there. Nobody's like bugging you for 20% more, right?
I love the middle of the road guys.
Yeah. Like they're some of the happiest ones we ever run across.
And the most reliable.
Right.
Long lasting.
So really hopefully that will give everybody an idea of the scalability, whether it's retail, non-retail, the multi-brand. Always love the multi-brand.
We can go for hours.
To grow that empire. We can go for hours, but actually we can really only go for about another 60 seconds because we're kind of running out of time.
But I have a question. Did you have a question?
No, fire away.
Okay. So I've got Terry in Ohio.
Okay.
Has a son.
Okay.
How old do you have to be able to get into franchising? Is there like a limit?
So good question, Terry. Thanks for that. We'll fire one of these super cool Franchising 360 show mugs your way. Put some hot chocolate in there this time of year, Terry. But usually 18. I think most cases. We've had a client as young as 21 that has come in and started a franchise.
Okay.
So a lot of times it can be that alternative to even going to college, or in addition to growing. Usually with a parent or a family member involved.
That was going to be my follow-up question. Like, are they doing it on their own? How does an 18-year-old have that kind of money? Because I did not.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I want to definitely talk more about that. Maybe next week.
Okay.
Let's see, or here soon here on the Franchising 360 show. TheFranchising360show.com is how you reach out to us. We will be here next Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific for more about franchising here on the Franchising 360 show.